I am on a mission to find the best place for horror book recommendations. So in the month of October, I'm going to be going to 10 different places to get recommendations. And they are going to be battling against each other. This is a 10-part vlog series where I am going to be reading 3 recommendations from 10 different places so I can get the best possible horror books for me. I will be using BookTube, Instagram, Libro FM, Pango Books, Goodreads, Kindle Unlimited, The Storygraph, Reddit, Everand, and TikTok to be getting recommendations. All of these sites have different ways to get recommendations. Some of them are very much like, here, these books are recommended to you, and some, like social media sites, you have to search a little more, but there's still ways to make everything personal to you, and I want to see where I should go in the future for the best recommendations. So in each video I have to read at least one book that is a new to me author. I can only read one book from an author that I have read and loved. So the third book can either be another new to me author or an author I have read from and disliked. That one's a little risky, but it's not a guarantee for me to like it, so it doesn't feel like cheating at all. Especially if I like it, it's like an extra good recommendation because maybe I wouldn't have picked it up previously. Each book will get 10 points per star rating. So 1 star will be 10 points, 5 stars will be 50 points, and half stars will be 5 points. So each episode can get 150 points total, and I will be ranking them as we go throughout this series. I'd love to know in the comments now which one of the 10 you think is going to give the best recommendations by the end. I wanted to start with BookTube. I love BookTube. It is where I exist a lot. It's where I spend a lot of time. It's where I get a lot of recommendations from. I will be picking books as I finish the next one and need another book. So no idea what I'm reading yet. We will get to find out together. So BookTube is a little difficult for something like this because the recommendations aren't quite as personalized. So I have a couple different ways I'm going to try to get some recommendations that feel a little more specific to me. So the first way I'm going to be doing this is finding lists of books that people that I already follow and know I have some similar tastes to have enjoyed this year. I mostly was looking for like favorites lists from the first half of the year, the mid-year freak out tag, and I also wanted to make sure that I agree with at least one book that they put on this list. If I haven't read anything or haven't liked anything, then what are the chances that I could also like something? I mean, with people that I already know that I line up with some, like, there's a little bit of a higher chance, but I figured this was a pretty safe bet. I saw that Gabby from Gabby Reads posted her top 10 books of the year so far video, and I looked through it, and there is one, Kill for Me, Kill for You by Steve Kavanaugh, that was on her list. That has been one of my favorite thrillers of the year.
Alright, next up I wanted to talk about Kill for Me, Kill for You. This is another thriller that I read this year that I thought was so much fun. It was just so entertaining. Like, this is one of the most entertaining thriller reading experiences I've had all year long.
So there was a book on Gabby's list that I am so excited to read. It is by an author I have not read from before.
The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim. And everything about this just really worked for me. You know, it checked all my boxes. I think if you're somebody that's like disgusted by the idea of eyeballs or like eating eyeballs, oh my god, it was so descriptive to the point where I was like, yo, like that's disgusting. But like that's what I want in horror, you know, like I want the shit that freaks me out, you know, like I want the shit that gets to me in that way that just grosses me out.
So I'm going to read The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim. This is the Evernight exclusive edition. So it looks like this. There's tons of customizations with it. Also, like, can you see the texture, like the eyeballs up here and then the blood? It's so good. It's so creepy. And then eyeballs are just having their moment, and it's disgusting, and I love it. So I have started this one. I'm 72 pages in, and I want to gag. I want to gag. So we're following Jiwon. She lives with her 2 parents and her sister, and her appa finds some other lady that he wants to be with, so he leaves his family, and her Uma is very distraught. Like, she really is going through it, but then she starts dating this guy, George. Oh, George, I hate you. He makes me feel disgusting. Like, he's not even like doing anything horror related, but the comments that he makes, the things that he just like does from a distance. This isn't even the horror stuff, but there's a scene where like Jiwon and her sister are making up from an argument and like have like a mini pillow fight, and he's just standing there in the door frame and was like, if you're not going to invite me to participate, at least let me watch. Dude, you're disgusting. I hate it. He makes me so uncomfortable. Like, my skin is crawling. I can't. There's so many things about him that I'm like, I can't. No. But Haruma is very happy with this man for some reason. There is a language barrier between them, and it's unclear if she has maybe ulterior motives on top of like enjoying, I guess, hanging out with him. But there's also the eyeball stuff, you know, like there has to be eyeball stuff. So this is a Korean family, and they, at the very beginning, are eating a fish. I know it's common in other cultures to eat fish eyes. The idea of that makes me want to throw up, like, truly. So we watch that happen. There's a couple times where people are eating fish eyeballs, and it's supposed to be good luck. Like, I get it, and I can understand why other people want to eat fish eyeballs. No. But that happens, and after Jiwon decides that she's gonna do this to kind of appease her Uma, she starts having weird dreams. And in her dreams, she's all into the eyeballs. Like, well, the eyeballs are in her, I guess. And just the descriptions of eating eyeballs and it being in your mouth, and just like, the descriptions are so ugh, that whenever a tomato is described, like eating a cherry tomato, that makes me feel uncomfortable because I'm just thinking about eyeballs. Ugh. So this book definitely feels more like a family drama at this point, but the writing is keeping me so engaged between the weird, like, what is going on with the eyeball situation, and then George being how he is. I am just so invested. I was really hoping that I would love this book, but literary horror either works so well for me or I find it incredibly boring, and I was nervous, but like, I'm kind of obsessed with this and it makes me feel gross, and I love that. I am 192 pages into The Eyes Are the Best Part. I was reading this last night in bed. I was laying there, Adam was sleeping, and I was trying to not gag because of the things that happened. Oh, it makes me feel sick. It makes me feel so sick. I hate it, but like, it's so good. I don't know. I'm not okay. But like, I'm so invested in everything that's happening. Like, why in the synopsis it says Jiwon's hunger and her rage deserve to be sated? Her hunger, like, she's too into eyeballs. She's too into it. And like, why is that happening? It disturbs me a lot. And George just sucks. He sucks. I hate him. I want his eyeballs gone. Ugh. And then we are also watching her just like existing in the world. She's going to college. She does not do very well at it, but she meets some people there that impact her in different ways, and that is all interesting. I just like, I have a lot of questions for her. Like, why? So that's all I have to say. Like, I'm disturbed, but I'm loving this. I am gonna go finish and hopefully not puke, because I feel like it just has to get worse, which is exactly what I wanted from this book. I have finished The Eyes Are the Best Part, and I am going to give this one 5 stars. It was just so good. I do think that this was the perfect length for this book. I think that if it was much longer, I would have felt like it should have been cut down, because there's not a ton of plot happening other than like the eyeball thing. There's the family drama with her mom and the gross boyfriend, and then her going to school. But like, other than that, we're just watching her kind of exist in life. There's not like a huge driving plot in this book. Sometimes that works so well for me, sometimes it doesn't. This one it did. I just felt unease with this book. I was just so stressed between George and then the eyeball stuff. I think that the way that Jiwon was interacting with the characters made it interesting, because she used different characters that she had met and interacted with in different ways to further her own desires. It was so fun to watch. She just kind of was who she was, and learning about things from her past as we went along, and then watching her continue to be invested in eyeballs was very interesting. I think that the like imagery in this was very good. I'm not somebody that can visualize things when I read, but the descriptions of eating eyeballs just like really got me. I wanted to throw up so many times while reading this book. It was, I don't know, it was something. It accomplished its goal. I liked the way that it wrapped up. I thought it was fun. I liked seeing more of our character's personality as things went, because like at first you think she's just this like standard teenage girl, but then you learn that there's a little more than meets the eye with her. So I really liked this one. I thought the dynamics in it were interesting. I thought that the horror was disgusting, and I would absolutely read more from this author. I'm pretty sure it's a debut. The back does not say anything about that. Also, just like the fact that this is what I'm looking at when I try to look at the author little blurb in the back. She's so into eating this eyeball, like way too into it. It's just so good. I am so glad this one worked for me. I was nervous. I was so hopeful. But with these kinds of stories, I just never know. I felt a lot of things while reading this. Mostly not good emotions, but like effective emotions. So that worked very well for me. So a great start for the BookTube picks with 50 points for a 5-star. I'm excited to pick another book and find a different way to do this, because I think with BookTube there's so many different ways that you can get recommendations. So glad this one worked so well, and I'm looking forward to the next one. So I knew that for my next book I wanted to get a book from a reading vlog recommendation. So anytime a video would pop up and there was a book that I have read and loved in the thumbnail, I would click on it, see if that person gave a similar rating to me, like a 4 or 5 star, and then I wanted to pick something else from that video if I could. This proved to be very difficult. But I found one. So Haley from Haley Hughes has this video, and in the thumbnail you can see that Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay, The House That Horror Built by Christina Henry, and How to Make a Horror Movie and Survive are in the thumbnail. Oh, I guess you can see my bookmark. Spoils the surprise. Well, anyway, earlier this year I gave Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay 5 stars, and Haley also really loved it.
I don't know if I'm just like being a little pretentious hipster about this, but I'm obsessed with this book.
And then also in the video, she loved How to Make a Horror Movie and Survive.
Obviously, this is getting 5 stars from me. I absolutely loved every single part of it. I love a book that has something to say, but also is wildly entertaining and disturbing as we want horror to be.
So I feel like there being one 5-star book for me in this video, and then 2 others I was interested in reading, and one of them was also a 5-star, it was a sign to read this book. This is not like, if you like this book, read this book kind of situation, but because she liked both of them, I figured I'd give this one a go. So far I am 125 pages in. This reminds me of a combination of Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle and Ghost Camera by Darcy Coates, specifically like the novella Ghost Camera that's in here in the republished version. It's like kind of the storyline of this mixed with a little bit of the storyline of this plus the quirkiness, which I think is a very interesting combination. So in this we are following Max, and he is a very loved horror director. Everybody loves him. He's making so much money. He has a slasher franchise that everybody's obsessed with, but he is like, I don't want to do this. I want to make art, and I'm not making art. He feels like he isn't really able to use his creative juices to make the movies he really wants to be making. And he tries to talk to the people that he works with, and they're like, no, you need to do this thing that makes us money, so you're gonna make us another sequel. So he ends up coming in contact with Sally, who has acted in a couple small roles, but she wants to be a final girl in a slasher. So they meet up at a party, and then the next day they end up going to an estate sale for an old Hollywood director, producer, something like that. And he ends up buying this old camera that was used to shoot this infamous movie where a lot of the cast ended up dying. And he immediately is like, I have to make my next movie with this. This will be my big break. I can use it for my creative mastermind project. And it says the only problems are that it came with a cryptic warning and sometimes it howls. And then he discovers that there is definitely more sinister stuff going on with this movie. And he desperately wants his movies to scare people, and this camera very much will help him accomplish that. So I have read 2 books by Craig DeLuey before. I enjoyed both. I gave episode 13 3.5 stars, and The Children at Red Peak, I think is the name, 4 stars. This one feels very different. It's so quirky. The audiobook narrator has like that very stereotypical transatlantic accent, which is kind of throwing me off a little bit, but I feel like also adds to the quirkiness of it. I'm not joking, like seriously, this feels like a combination of these 2 books. It's kind of blowing my mind because usually I don't get those extreme comparisons when I'm reading things. And at this point, I'm liking it. I feel like it's feeling like 3.5 to 4 stars. I'm not getting that obsession with it. I think that it could start to go in a direction that I like even more. At this point, it's really just been most of the setup of the book, which is why I feel like I'm not truly obsessed. There's been some like interesting moments in here and some pretty gruesome things that have already happened. And I'm really, really intrigued to see what continues happening in this book because it could go in a lot of really interesting directions that I would like a lot. I'm now 245 pages into How to Make a Horror Movie and Survive, and I am liking this, but there is one thing that is keeping me from being fully invested, and I think it's the fact that it's in third person. I think the ones that need to be in third person are when there's more of a focus on other people. I feel like our main character has such strong feelings, and really both of the characters that we're following, they have such strong thoughts and opinions that I want to feel that more. I feel like I'm just watching the story instead of being in it, which is just a personal preference. I don't think it's like specifically the wrong choice, but for me, I think I would be liking this more if I was more in the story. I will say I'm really, really liking the discussions on what is horror in this. Our main character has very particular opinions on like highbrow horror versus trashy slashers and their validity in the horror community. So I'm liking seeing him have these opinions and then them being questioned a little bit. And it's just kind of funny because like the main character's opinion and then the style of this book are completely opposites, which I think is a good choice because it's very clear that Craig DeLuey is not saying that only like super elevated horror is the only kind of horror. And I'm liking seeing the cursed camera aspect of this. I think that's really fun, and the way that it's integrated into the story is interesting because there's a little bit more interaction than I was expecting. Where I am right now, we are just starting to get to like all of the stuff that is going down, and I'm really excited to see that because everything with this camera is so gruesome. And I've just really enjoyed seeing our main character like going back and forth between using this camera versus not knowing all of the horror it's going to cause in real life and like still being like, well, you know. So I'm having a good time with it. I just want to be a little more invested in the story, but I'm like a little bit disconnected, which is the only thing that is keeping me from being obsessed, but I'm still really, really liking it. So I finished How to Make a Horror Movie and Survive, and I think I'm gonna give this 3.5 stars. I think that it was a lot of fun, but I just never felt invested in the story like I wanted to be. There seriously wasn't anything that specifically I was like, I don't like this part of it, and I liked the discussions that were had in this book, but I just felt so removed from the story. And this is my third Craig DeLuey, and they've all been in the 3.5 to 4 star range, which are books that I enjoy, but I, for some reason, like really had such high hopes for this one. I thought that I was going to end up liking it even more than the other 2, but I think that all of his books might just be in that range for me because of the writing style. There's just something about it that doesn't click for me. So I would recommend this. I think it's a very fun time. It's a little bit on the quirky side, and I liked the direction that it went in. There's gore in here. It's very interesting, but I just wanted to be sucked into the story, and that never happened for me. It was easy to put it down, and I wanted to like pick it back up and continue reading and see what happened, but I wasn't like dreading the moments that I couldn't be reading. So a fun time, but not a favorite for me. So 3.5 stars will add 35 points to my BookTube total. So we are now at 85 out of 100 points, which is still pretty good. My goal would be to like everything that I read for the series. So anything 3 stars and higher, I am trying to get really good recommendations and pick up things that I've been interested in. So I'm happy with how this is going. So we have one more book to go. So for my final way of getting recommendations, I wanted a specific recommendation video. And Kayla from Books and Lala did a really fun video where she is giving recommendations based on this Reddit post where people post a picture and they have a genre and a picture, and you're supposed to just recommend a book based on that. I wasn't sure if this was going to feel very personalized to me, so I wanted to make sure that I at least was interested in the photo. I didn't post it. I wasn't specifically looking for that, but there is one that came up.
This one's interesting. It's like a strange looking house in the middle of nowhere. Maybe it can just be about like the feeling. Like, I know these don't have to be literal. Like, it's about the feeling of it. The feeling of being isolated, the feeling that the house is a little weird. I've got that. I'm not sure where my copy of Foe is by Ian Reid, but that's one that popped into mind immediately. The other one that came to mind is a recent read of mine. We used to live here with Marcus Cleaver. It's confusing. You're in this state, well, the characters are, but you're also in this state of just like confusion, and it feels like that picture looks.
So the photo itself was already intriguing enough to me, but I have given Foe by Ian Reid 5 stars. I really love this book. And I know that these two books are not like a comparison, like if you like this one, read this one, whatever. But because I had already liked a book that was recommended in tandem with this photo, I will be reading We Used to Live Here. I'm so excited for this book. It's been so hyped. It started off as a no sleep story on Reddit, and one of my favorite books, Pen Pal, also started on that. So truly so excited to read this book. Well, I don't know why I'm saying that like I haven't started it. I have. I am now 102 pages in, and I'm having so much fun with it. This book was so hard to get my hands on. It's been out of stock everywhere for so long, but I finally checked, like, I guess when a restock happened, and I'm really glad that I have a physical copy because there's a lot of stuff. Oh, I didn't actually see this. So this is fun. I need to look at that more. So I've heard that there's Morse code in here, so I need to learn Morse code. So we're following Eve and her partner Charlie renovate houses together. So they just bought this house and they're like moving in while they renovate it. And Eve is waiting for Charlie to get home from work so that they can have an evening like playing games and drinking together. And while she's waiting for her to come home, somebody knocks on the door and it's this family. And like, if I lived kind of in the middle of nowhere and someone knocks on my door, I'm not answering it, especially if it's nighttime. Well, I don't live in the middle of nowhere and I don't answer my door. So definitely would not be me. And they're like, oh, hi, I used to live here. Well, like the guy lived there and he grew up there. So my family happened to be in the area. Can I show them around your house? She's like, I mean, I don't really want to, but then because the little girl looks sad about it, she decides that she's going to let them in. I'm like, I'm already stressed. I'm stressed because, like, don't do that. Don't do that. But she does that, and they're like, it'll only be 15 minutes. But the little girl, there's the mom, dad, 2 boys, and then a young girl, and she plays spontaneous hide and seek, and she'll just hide out of nowhere. She ends up in the basement in this like weird cubby and won't come out for so long, which just makes me so uncomfortable. They're just like, whatever, she'll come out in 15 minutes, and then it turns longer and longer, and eventually Charlie gets back and is like way more okay with these people being here than Eve is. And I'm just like, I don't know why. If I got home and there were randos, like a whole family in my house, I'd be like, excuse you? But she is very cool about it. I am not very cool about things. So Eve is like seeing some kind of weird things in the house, and also the family's visit just keeps extending and extending. There's just been little glimpses of weird things going on right now, but I'm just so invested for some reason. Like, I'm just so uncomfortable with the idea of this family like infiltrating my life, being in my space, and making breakfast when I go downstairs, and like, it's weird. I think the audiobook is really good. So there are these documents that we are getting, which I feel like really is adding to the story. So this one is the real estate listing for the property, and they all end with Morse code. So the documents are all kind of different things. Obviously they're not all just the real estate listing, but it adds this kind of like weirdness to the story that I'm very interested in. So far I am loving this. I've heard this compared to certain books. If you look at this map at the beginning, I think it's pretty clear to me what it is, and that book, parts of it I loved, parts of it I did not. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm really, really excited to keep reading this. I'm already having a great time. I am having so much fun with the Morse code in here specifically. Having a little thing to solve is just like so exciting. I don't know what it is. And I forget where I left off doing that, because I don't think that I've done it for the last couple chapters because I'm doing the audiobook, but like having the little Morse code chart and like flipping through and figuring out what it's saying is just like a weirdly really good time. So maybe I need to start like actually learning Morse code and leaving secret messages in my videos. That's an idea. Anyway, I am really loving this. I am loving not knowing what's going on. There's just some weird things, and like what is causing it? I don't know. That's really all I have to say. I think that it's just doing a really great job of being entertaining, but also keeping us confused and kind of like, what the heck is happening? It's just also like really fun to see books kind of play with formatting, and I don't think it's like an obnoxious amount. I just looked through a couple of pages and there wasn't anything, but then there's the Morse code that's happening, and then there's also things like this. I don't want to like show you too much, but you could see like there's like numbers going down the page. So I feel like that just adds to the story. And here's the thing. I've seen people publicly comparing this to House of Leaves with like the formatting in general. And House of Leaves worked for me so well with like the unique format and stuff like that. I just didn't like the like one character, like anything that kind of went with him. So I think that this is a really good balance for me. I don't think it's too much. And then I'm also not like annoyed by another thing. And it's like obviously not like a direct copy of it, but this family is just like, I can't take them. I cannot take them. The mom specifically, like she makes some comments and I'm like, girl, what? And then I'm really liking watching our main character experience not knowing what's real and what is not. And I don't know, just like everything about it, it's so fun. It's like making me feel very, not like stressed out, but I just like, I'm feeling the tension in the book, and I just think that it's done really, really well. I'm so curious how this compares to the original Reddit story, but it's not available anymore. I looked for it and it's like taken down from the publisher because of like copyright issues, which I get, but I desperately wish that I could see the original formatting and how that was done with that. So far, this is going incredible. I cannot wait to finish it. My Patreon book club is discussing this. So I'm gonna finish this tonight, and the discussion is tonight, so I can't wait to talk about it with everybody. Interesting blurbs on the back. Well, like the authors that were chosen. I'm really loving this still. I am really liking the reading experience and the story itself, and I truly can't wait to find out how this ends. I don't care if we don't get all the answers. I don't need that in general, but I'm interested to see what we are given. I finished We Used to Live Here. Oh my gosh, this book is 5 stars. I love books that make me feel stressed, and this book did that. It's an interesting one because it's not a very overtly horror book. Like, there's not a lot of like gross things and scary things and stuff. Well, okay, I've seen a lot of people say this book is very scary, which I didn't feel scared, but I felt very tense, which I feel like can kind of equate to the same thing depending on how much you read and like what you're qualifying those reactions as. Just whenever books, like something is wrong and you don't know what it is, it just like, I don't know, it makes me feel a certain kind of way, and books that make me feel that way usually end up being 5 stars. This one is very ambiguous. You don't get a lot of answers to things, which does not bother me. I kind of like that in books. I like when a book leaves you kind of questioning a lot of things. And this did that, but also I feel like with the way that certain things were wrapped up, it kind of gave you a direction to guide your thoughts. I think that it is one that it was very intentionally left the way that it was because of the rest of the book. Like, it made a lot of sense to me. I wasn't surprised at all that I didn't get a lot of answers. I think that this just like is one that I'm going to think about for so long, because like, what about this thing? What about this thing? I had my Patreon discussion and it was really fun to be like, so what do you think about this thing? Like, what did this situation like lead you to believe was happening? Because there's a lot of options, and I truly just love things that are like that. It's so much fun for me. I don't necessarily want to be handed all the answers. I don't even want to be like close to certain answers in certain situations, because like not all situations have answers, and I just like truly had so much fun with this. I think if you can get your hands on the physical copy, because it's been sold out a lot, it enhances the experience versus just audiobook. There's this map in here. There's Morse code throughout, which I did write down as it went, and then I have the full thing written in the back. I just think that this was so interesting. I just truly love books that are just like so unsettling like this, where that is the thing that's kind of propelling the story, because I feel like there's not a lot of like really fast moving plot things. There's only a couple different like real situations that we are in, but it's the in between where it's like, I don't know, the weird vibes of like trying to figure out what is happening because clearly something is wrong, just like really gets me. So 5 stars for We Used to Live Here, which is 50 more points for BookTube recommendations. And that does bring us to the end of the first episode. So we have 50 points for The Eyes Are the Best Part, 3.5 stars for How to Make a Horror Movie and Survive, so 35 points, and 5 stars and 50 points for We Used to Live Here. So BookTube recommendations got 135 out of 150 possible points, which I'm very happy with. The specific videos that I got these recommendations from Gabby, Haley, and Kayla will be linked in the description for you. So make sure you check them out. There's also like tons and tons and tons of recommendation videos, vlogs, obviously all over BookTube. I love BookTube. It's where I get most of my recommendations from, but it was fun to be more specific about why I was picking books up. So I had a lot of fun with this. Seriously, really happy with all of these books. And as of now, BookTube is in the #1 spot. Obviously, there's only been 1 episode, so it makes sense, but also, I feel like that's a really good score and might be hard to beat. So next up, you will see me getting recommendations from Instagram. Make sure you stick around so you don't miss that. That will be coming very soon. If you are not watching this at the beginning of October, I will have a playlist linked in the description for you. If you've made it to the end and want to leave me an emoji just to say you were here, you can leave me an eyeball emoji. Let me know in the comments if you think that next Instagram will beat BookTube or if BookTube will stay in first place. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope to see you very soon. Bye.